And welcome back. We're continuing to go through constitutional amendments. Today, I have my buddy Belandris. What's up, buddy?
Howdy.
And Cheesy came back for another run at things. What's up,
Yo,
Cheese?
what's up? What's good? Happy other day.
Happy other day. Brand new day. New amendments. So we'll pick up right where we left off. Amendment 17 from 1913. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, elected by the people thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. The electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislatures. So this is just another one. This one is one that I actually hate. I like the idea of appointed senators that the original Constitution had in it. This one kind of makes things muddy and makes the senators just a glorified House of Representatives, where the 2 branches or the 2 chambers of Congress should have been completely different than each other. Any thoughts, gentlemen?
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I don't know how much I can add to that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You got anything, Paul?
No, I agree as well. I believe was MLS Law was on Ozzy Overlord's 24-hour stream, and he mentioned that as well. I think that was where I heard it, and I was agreeing with those statements. He said very much the same thing, as we now have 2 House of Representatives, and the states do not have representation in government.
Yeah, and the 2 senators each state is fine, but then you have 2 senators from a state like California that is massive, with massive populations, or the state of Texas, which also, and then you have equal representation for states like Rhode Island that have nearly no one and they're very small, or Connecticut and New Hampshire, or it just seems disproportionate, and it seems to not achieve the goals that it should anymore. But
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay. But pretty straightforward amendment. So this is a continuation. When vacancies happen in the representation of any state in the Senate, the executive authority of such state shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies, provided that the legislature of any state may empower the executive thereof to make temporary appointments until the people fill the vacancies by election, as the legislature may direct. This amendment shall not be so constructed as to affect the election or term of any senator chosen before it comes valid as part of the Constitution. So, some more just procedural stuff. It doesn't really mean much for process or change anything we just said. This is just much more procedural in saying that it doesn't affect anybody who's already there. So it doesn't. It only goes moving forward, not looking back. So now we go to the 18th Amendment. And this one's an interesting one because it has been repealed in 1919 by the 21st Amendment, which we'll get to later. Section 1. After 1 year from the ratification of this article, the manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquors within, the importation thereof into, or the exportation thereof from the United States and all territory subject to the jurisdiction thereof for beverage purposes is hereby prohibited. The Congress and the several states shall have concurrent power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. This one was obviously this is prohibition of alcohol in the United States. And it obviously has been repealed. But other than that, I think it was a significant overreach, and I think it never should have happened.
So, as we know, it was a hugely successful bill. huge
Yes.
in getting people killed.
Yeah.
Huge
Increasing
in
crime boards.
increasing crime in the country. But not only that, not just crime from criminals, but you had the U.S. government, U.S. law enforcement agencies adding poison to alcohol that was spread amongst the speakeasies and whatnot to harm people. So that's something that is often not spoken about and is something important for people to remember. It was a very dark time for the country, though in movies it sort of has like this sort of
Romantic.
the romanticizing the crime and the terrible things that people went through.
And yet it's a lesson we haven't learned from, because we still have a prohibition on that. It's having similar effects, except in areas that have decided to ignore the federal government.
Right.
Which should be a state's right, but also it's one of the things where, yeah, it created all kinds of organized crime, um, all kinds of negative effects, and it never should have been a prohibition. Um, the small L libertarian in me says that legalize it all and let people make their own choices, but I don't know how you guys feel about that. That's probably a different program, but
I mean, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I mean, it certainly should not be a federal government decision. It should certainly be a state decision. And
Mhm.
most importantly, it should be up to your medical provider. And nowadays, they're finding that I think it's class A drugs, which are, like super uber banned for public distribution or ownership, usage, whatnot. They're finding that there's significant medical benefits to them, and they're slowly drawing back some of these restrictions that they've put on some of those, especially marijuana. I won't go. Actually, I'm sorry. I know we're not supposed to go into drugs, but it's by name. But those type of drugs, they're slowly rolling back because they're finding that they have medicinal benefit.
purposes.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't mind going into it, just dipping the toe, but yeah, obviously, like Belinda said, we haven't learned from the prohibition of alcohol that it causes crime and it causes people to find these substances. They're going to find it no matter what it is, and that's where my thought comes in. Interesting story. So I'm close to Canada, obviously, and my buddy has a cabin just north of Detroit, and it's on an island. I won't say the island to dox anybody, but small island, and they used to run liquor through there from Canada, because it's just a short trip across the river. Like you can pretty much walk to Canada, even still today. And it's places like that. They were going to do what it took, and it made a whole kind of subculture. Some will even say, I don't know how true this is. I've just heard it. That the NASCAR and racing and that kind of thing came from running liquor, in its origin. Yeah. So
my understanding is that's actually true.
That I thought it was accurate, but I won't say that with any specificity for the hate.
That is certainly what made it popular. I know that for sure.
Mm-hmm. So I think this one is a horrible one. In 1919, let people decide. We're supposed to be free people. And again, this is another one of those ones that we talked about. The 16th. It's another one of those ones where the purpose of the Constitution and our amendments to the Constitution is to limit the government from affecting us. And this is us from affecting us. And we should have our own choices. So
it's absolutely an example of the government trying to sort of make a monarchy out of many, in a way.
Mhm.
They're definitely trying to grab control with these two specific amendments.
All right. Anything to add, or we good to move on?
We're good.
No.
Good. Okay. Oh, how long is this bill?
Yeah, well,
Actually-
one more section.
This article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the legislatures of several states, as provided in the Constitution, with 7 years from the date of submission hereof to the states by Congress. So that's just how long it took to pass, and we ultimately knew it passed. So that doesn't really add much to the conversation.
I'm still just astounded that there were enough states to ratify it.
I am too, especially with the industry and how much money was around it. Like,
Yeah,
what
you would
was
think
the lobby?
the big liquor producing states would be vehemently against it.
Right. Because it was all everything was outlawed. Liquor, beer, everything.
Yeah,
So your Tennessees, your Missouris, where the big producers were.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, Wisconsin was a huge. I see what you did there. Was a huge. It was a huge jolt to their system. I mean, it really impacted industry in a negative way. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I fail to see, and history has failed to show me what the impact was, why the prohibition was so popular and gained so much traction. I don't know if either of you gentlemen know that, or if it's too long.
No, that's
Why
actually
we? Sorry, go ahead, Blandris.
Yeah, no, that's actually something I never actually thought about is what was the big push? Why did all of these states decide this was a good idea?
Right.
So what happened, from my understanding, is that after the suffragette movement, this was one of the biggest things that was pushed by the same women's organizations. They felt that alcoholism, alcohol abuse, especially after World War One, it was becoming a bigger issue, and the problem because people didn't really know how to properly medicate issues that arise from people who've been to war. So they tried to self-medicate with alcohol, and they felt that that was sort of demonic. They felt that it was not very Christian. So there was a religious aspect from the post-suffragette movement that was the main factor behind the change of this law. I mean, I don't understand why they're just like, you know what, this is a really good point. This is a good idea. We should definitely move forward to it. And let's I don't know, maybe they felt that, yes, I see it going completely out of control, the abuse of alcohol, with these returning vets going into a very unfortunate time for a lot of people just a little bit later on.
So,
But yeah, that's my understanding.
okay. From the Library of Congress, it emerged as organized efforts of the temperance movement, so what you were talking about, and the Anti-Saloon League, which attributed alcohol to virtually all of society's ills and led campaigns through local, state, and national levels. It also was believed to be the reason for poverty. It would annihilate poverty in the United States. That alcohol somehow caused poverty. So I think a lot of I hate using this word, misinformation caused this amendment to go through. But
for sure. But yeah, no, there was definitely a religious aspect, but they felt
Mhm.
that the alcohol abuse, which stemmed from some of the things mentioned, was definitely causing a disservice to the country. So that was the idea behind it,
Mhm.
and the creation of the temperance, which I think was like was a female led movement, and it was shortly after the suffragettes. So I think it was just like the the quote, the next thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's anyway, that's enough about that.
All right.
I've never understood
Oh.
the puritanical view towards alcohol myself. Christ
Yeah.
was a party dude. He turned water into wine.
Right.
Yes, he was a party dude after all.
Well, and you just look at like when the Pilgrims came over. One of the main things they brought over was an apple press, so they could make cider.
Right. Right.
I don't know. I don't know about you, man. Like apple cider is pretty good.
Well, and you wonder, are we going to see the same thing? Because it obviously is something that is traditionally American culture with
Apple cider?
alcohol consumption. Is this the next move with Newsom's 28th Amendment on the prohibition of firearms? Is this another, oh, we made a mistake that's going to go? And I don't want to get into that in any depth. I'm just saying, is this another where we don't learn from history and we make an amendment to then repeal it at a later time?
So any movement, I think, towards a constitutional amendment change
Mhm.
Regarding the Second Amendment would fail all the tests required by the Supreme Court and would be ruled unconstitutional.
Okay.
So yes, they could temporarily do something like that. I think it would be blocked by most federal courts that any suit is brought to. I mean, we're already seeing like huge failures across the country at some attempts to try to do it at a smaller level. So
Right.
to do something from such a high level, especially against an amendment that states shall not be infringed, they're going to have a very difficult, extremely difficult time trying to overturn something like that, especially, well, unless they're able to pack the court, which I've heard that they've been wanting to do.
Yeah.
They would not be able to do that with this Supreme Court. That is 100% certain.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I was just topic of thoughts there.
Oh, sorry. I mean, I understand.
You're good. All right. So the aforementioned women's suffrage movement, the 19th Amendment, 1920. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. I think that's it. Yep.
And there's no controversy about this amendment to this day.
Oh no, it's not like it's the biggest mistake we've ever made.
Oh,
None
It's one of the
whatsoever.
biggest.
absolutely no controversy whatsoever regarding the 20th Amendment. Everyone seems to be extremely happy with the decision, and we're doing so much better because it has been made. As everyone can see, the United States has only been continually a positive force for the world and ourselves since this date and time.
I don't think we'll be positive until we get a woman president. I'm with her.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Hillary 2037. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, now we know that you voted for Hillary.
Hillary
And
2037.
that has nothing to do with him covering the body count and wanting to stay off the list.
Nothing at all.
Nope, voted for Hillary in 2037, guys.
Yep, me too. I will line up for miles. But no, for real. This came with a lot of controversy. I think that anybody that is a member of this country that has a positive impact should be able to vote. I may be in the minority there, but I think that you should have to contribute. You should have to contribute to things like selective service or you should have to contribute to the military, or you should have to contribute. There are different ways that females got the right to vote, but they didn't have any of the consequences of the actions that were taken.
So you're of the Starship Troopers mentality, service guarantees citizenship.
Yes,
I'll
Okay,
be completely honest with you. I don't know what a female is. I'm not a biologist.
that's true. I am not a biologist.
I'm
Please
not a
don't cancel
biologist,
me.
but I took biology in high school, and it was pretty clear there. I'm not sure though.
It was pretty clear that there are 876,000 genders, and they are exploding every day.
See,
There are more every day.
that wasn't in any of my biology books.
Oh, well, they hadn't been created yet or recognized. God damn it. Now I'm.
Yeah, social constructs are like a terrible thing. So what we did is we socially constructed a thing.
That's true. And without getting canceled, we're going to the 20th. 1933. The terms of the president and vice president shall end at noon on the 20th day of January, and the terms of the senators and representatives at noon on the 3rd day of January of the years in which such terms would have ended if this article had not been ratified, and the terms of the successors shall then begin. The Congress shall assemble at least once every year, and such meetings shall begin at noon on the 3rd day of January, unless they shall, by law, appoint a different day. Section 3. If at any time the time fixed for the beginning of the term of the president-elect shall have died, the vice president-elect shall become president. If a president shall not have been chosen before the time fixed for the beginning of his term, or the president-elect shall have failed to qualify, then the vice president-elect shall act as president until a president shall have qualified. And the Congress may, by law, provide for the case wherein neither a president elected nor a vice president elect shall have qualified, declaring who shall then act as president, or the manner in which one who is to act shall be selected, and such person shall act accordingly until a president or vice president shall have qualified. Section 4. The Congress may, by law, provide for the case of the death of any persons from whom the House of Representatives may choose a president whenever the right of choice shall have devolved upon them, and for the case of the death of any of the persons from whom the Senate may choose a vice president whenever the right choice shall have devolved upon them. Section 5. Sections 1 and 2 shall take effect on the 15th day of October following the ratification of this article. Section 6. This article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states within 7 years from the date of its submission. That's
All right.
20th Amendment.
Well, I mean, pretty straightforward, very procedural. The only thing I can say is I don't think that they added anything in the case that a recently deceased president would come back alive. Maybe through some form of magic they were brought back alive, and they've just got a situation where they've now made the vice president president. I mean, what would you do in that situation? Just go back like, oh, all is normal.
Well, and that's, I think we get into the 25th when that happens. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, but
wait, he's just talking about a zombie president.
yes.
I mean, I just don't think that the Constitution really, takes into account
I mean,
supernatural.
does the Constitution need to have the protocols on how to deal with a zombie? Because it's pretty straightforward. You destroy the brain.
Well,
Right.
I mean, there's different opinions on this for sure. I'm just concerned that they don't take the supernatural into consideration. when writing this.
This has evolved into nothing. The first one was so good, cheese. So yeah, so this again, this one's just procedural. It's the dates and times when the president becomes president and blah blah blah. There's not much here, so we'll move on to the 21st. 1933, the 21st Amendment. The 18th article of the amendment to the Constitution of the United States is hereby repealed. The 18th Amendment is the prohibition of alcohol. The transport or importation into any state, territory, or possession of the United States for delivery or use therein of intoxicating liquors in violation of the laws thereof is hereby prohibited. This article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the conventions in the several states as provided in the Constitution within 7 years from the date of the submission hereof to the states by the Congress. When we get to further amendments, I don't understand why we're still putting the procedural sections in there. We all know how it works, or if you're making a constitutional amendment, you should know how it works. So yeah. And we talked about this one briefly. It shouldn't, the 18th should have never been there. And I think it was a compromise because my personal opinion is it was a compromise to see if we could go without the 19th, and it didn't compromise well. Because the 19th came later in the same year. So, but I don't know. Any thoughts, boys?
Don't have much to add to this one.
No, it's straightforward.
Yes.
It undoes a major fuck up.
Right. And they should have definitely, I don't know. So the first amendments were there was so much clarity and there was so much the language was much better. Now it's just like, yep, we fucked up.
Very precise.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. And that leads to what we were talking about earlier, Cheese, where maybe it's better that way because the older amendments, including the Constitution, there's some wiggle room there. There truly is, and
Right.
I think that's what they've used to rip them apart. So,
yeah, I think that was. I think that they thought they were doing a good thing. But they couldn't have predicted what level of
lawyers,
not well lawyers, but what level of
subterfuge.
not subterfuge, no, but just the level of terribleness that people would go through to mischaracterize or redefine words to undermine and circumvent their original meanings. I don't think they thought that would be a situation. Maybe it was because they felt that people were relatively unified on the ideas that led to the creation of the United States Constitution.
Yeah.
They didn't know that would change over time. I think it was a small mistake. It's a resolvable mistake.
Yeah. And we could literally just add amendments to make things
solidified.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's kind of circles back to where this change in language was a positive thing because I mean, as you saw the last few amendments, there's not much there's nothing really to expound upon because it's so clear what the laws are.
Mm-hmm. No, I would.
And in this
100%
case,
agree.
it's just like, yeah, we fucked up. You can drink alcohol again. Sorry, guys. Sorry for poisoning a lot of people and causing great harm to their families. And, we might have done more harm than it was to just let people continue to drink alcohol.
Is this the government going, it's just a prank, bro?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's pretty much what this is. So, all right. Well, thank you all for joining me. Thank you to my guest, Belandris, and the cheesy one. I appreciate your inputs and thoughts on this topic. And until next time, anything to close?
All I have to say is stay cheesy.
Gross. I'll cut that out.
No.
Oh, please cut it out.